Hey, folks. Welcome back to Sorry What. I'm Jason, your storyteller. Today's story might make your head hurt, so grab your favorite drink, find a chill spot, and let's dive right into it. Chapter 1. It was just a simple girls' night out at the beginning. The women who worked at Winchester Logistics, those who worked in the warehouse anyway, got paid on the last Friday of the month. They agreed that was the best opportunity to get together. Hilary really enjoyed letting her hair down with her friends. Most of them were married like her, and this was a chance for some lively fun, away from their humdrum work. Hilary's husband Paddy didn't mind at all, and the other husbands didn't seem to care what their wives got up to, as long as dinner was on the table when they got home. At work, Hilary felt slightly superior to her workmates, though she tried not to show it. They were all working-class women doing a boring, repetitive job because they needed the money. But her Paddy was well off, and Hilary did not need to work. She thought being a stay-at-home wife would be fun, but soon got bored and took a job well below her capabilities. She loved the interaction with women who came from the background she had once known. And when they exchanged tales about what they'd got up to on their holidays in Ibiza and Torremolinos, she laughed at their antics, but didn't really join in. She and Paddy were more likely to holiday in Singapore and Bali. The girls had tried most of the town's watering holes, and eventually settled on the Tollgate Hotel. It tried to keep its guests and the locals from straying all over the town by providing music and dancing every Friday and Saturday night. The ballroom had plenty of dimly lit corners, and their husbands never went there. So it was the perfect place to cut loose without anyone paying attention. For Hilary, it was a perfect location. Not too far for most of the girls to travel, but a fairly long taxi ride for her. That first night, Hilary had a wonderful time. She soon let her guard down with the other girls and started flirting. Watching them, especially the married ones, dancing and getting groped turned her on. She drank 5 glasses of wine, but only paid for one. And she had dances with 4 different men, getting her backside squeezed by 3 of them and wet kisses from 2. At least one married member of their gang slipped upstairs for an hour with a stranger. 2 more spent time in the car park. Later they all agreed any indiscretions would never be discussed outside their girls' night out. And they would definitely be on the poll next month. When Hilary got home, she felt sexy and rejuvenated, and Paddy was happy she'd had a good time. She had been a wild one when she was at secretarial college, soon finding she had a submissive side. She had a lot of boyfriends and let them do whatever they wanted with her. But one day she overheard 2 classmates talking about her. She was getting a reputation. That had been when Hilary decided to clean up her act. She met Paddy and he was her savior. Marriage would calm her down. They got wed and honeymooned in Hawaii. Her wild days were behind her. Chapter 2. There were only 2 of the houses like theirs left on the upmarket side of town. They were reputed to be the oldest in the county. They were not actually listed or old enough to have earned preservation orders, but they did cause the occasional pedestrian to stop and admire. They were semi-detached and boasted the numbers 1 and 2 Bristol Road. Mr. Barnes lived in number 2, he had retired. Paddy and Hilary were in number 1, which had been passed down from Paddy's parents. They liked the place, despite the creaks and drafts. Paddy ran his own business, Paddy's Plans, working from home. He designed warehouses, domestic extensions and car parks, and word of mouth was bringing him in a steady stream of commissions. His computer-aided drawings were not quite to architect's standard, but they were more than good enough for local planning permissions. Chapter 3. The following month Hilary was in the arms of a handsome man, tall, with black hair graying at the temples. His name was Arthur, and he had slow danced with her last month, and got familiar with her backside and lips. She'd been hoping he would be there again. The song was loud and he leaned in close to her ear. I really enjoyed your company, Hilary. Could we sit somewhere quiet for a minute, so we can talk properly? After 18 years of marriage, Hilary was feeling like her old wild self again. Sex with Paddy had always been fulfilling, if not quite frequent enough. But the low-light levels, the naughty co-workers, and getting her backside fondled and her ear kissed, was making her horny. Paddy made love to her, but what she wanted now was a good ducking from a stranger. Okay, let's find a quieter table. She agreed reluctantly. They moved to a darker spot away from the stage. Without asking what Hilary would like, he went for more drinks. When he returned, he shuffled his chair round next to hers. You said you work for Winchester Logistics. Yes, she replied. The girls I'm with tonight have jobs in their warehouse, like me. That sounded a bit low-life, but Hilary didn't care. She was feeling low-life. Still, she didn't want to come across as a typical manual worker though, so she added. I did go to secretarial college, but warehouse work was all I could find around here. Well, I'm director of sales at Empire Holdings, on the other side of town. I think a woman with your class should be a pa. And it just so happens I'm looking for one. Hilary was flattered. She knew men found her attractive, but had never been described as classy before. If Arthur really did have a job for her, Hilary would be off like a shot. She would miss her friends of course, but that's what this girl's night out was for. She wished she'd worn something more alluring. Sitting next to a powerful man, she could feel a tingling sensation spreading from her breasts to her groin. Handsome, sexy, possibly with a better job for her, how could she resist? That's sweet of you to say so, Arthur. Tell me more. They chatted for another 20 minutes, and he continued to flatter her. He soon had one arm draped across the back of her chair. Occasionally he touched her shoulder. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Arthur. He interrupted her. Next time we talk we should get a room and talk about the proposition. We could take a bottle of wine up with us. Hilary wasn't sure what to say. On the one hand he was bold to presume she would agree, there was no doubt he had sex on his mind. But on the other hand, sex was what she wanted too. This handsome man clearly desired her, and she him. No need to make it too easy for him though. Perhaps I ought to get back to my friends, she said. Most of them are occupied now, he said. She looked across to their table. Irene and Doris were the only two left, and were deep in conversation with two men, snuggling up close. She could see Tracy out on the dance floor sandwiched between two guys. The rest of the girls were nowhere to be seen. At least two of your friends have gone up to a man's room. I think a couple more went out to the car park. Irene was now exploring a young guy's tonsils, and Doris was sitting on an older man's lap. Hilary knew she wouldn't be welcome back at the table. The idea of sex with Arthur was enticing, and her mates probably expected it of her. She crossed her legs and drained her wine. Could I have another drink, please? Arthur's free hand moved assertively up her thigh. It felt so sexy sliding over her silky tights. When it got most of the way up her leg, it stopped and gave a hard squeeze. He gave a final squeeze and went to the bar. Chapter 4. It was a big house, and Paddy had commandeered the dining room for his office. He and Hilary hardly ever had guests for dinner. The odd time he had to entertain potential clients, he and Hilary took them to a nearby restaurant. Their dining table was now his workstation, and there was a large printer next to the computer. He just finished a warehouse extension and checked his phone, surprised how time had flown. It was after 11. Last month Hilary had got home around 10:30. The girls must have had a lot of gossip tonight. He put his pajamas on and was still awake when she got in at 11:30. Aha! Your red face gives you away, he said. Hilary went even redder. What do you mean? She asked. She began to panic. Had he gone to the tall gate and seen her? There hadn't been time to shower, so she prayed he wouldn't want to check her undies. They were drenched. The red face tells me everything I need to know. You've had more glasses of wine than you should. At least 3, I would guess. Her relief was almost palpable, and her heartbeat slowed back to near normal. Chapter 5. The following week Doris telephoned Hilary. The girls had enjoyed flirting, and more, so much, they wanted to go twice a month. They hoped Hilary would join them. They had all either scored or were about to. She agreed. You remember I told you about that music night, babe? Yes, you said you had fun dancing. I did, but it was also the ambience. It's more the catching up on the news. I know I work with the girls, but we're scattered all over that warehouse and don't get together very often. I danced a few times, we all did, but I soon put guys in their place if they came on too strong. I don't doubt it, so are you asking me for something? Yes, the girls want to go more often. They're suggesting twice a month. What do you think? Well, a girls' night out once a fortnight doesn't sound excessive, as long as you're good. I'll be good, babe. And I will not let anyone ravish me on the dance floor. But Hilary was thinking she would definitely get ravished in a hotel bedroom. She was really looking forward to her next session, especially with annual segs on the menu. The dangling carrot of new employment was not the most important thing anymore. This new Hilary was now a cheating slut and wanted that dirty segs again, job or no job. She slipped out from work one lunchtime and bought a bottle of baby oil, a pair of hold-up stockings, and a tiny red thong at the shopping mall. Arthur had not made suggestions concerning these purchases, he had issued instructions. Hilary was not used to being ordered about, and it gave her another shiver. On the way back to work, she looked at the glove box. Better keep her segs with Arthur items in there. Paddy would not usually look in her handbag, but better safe than sorry. When she had first lain on the bed that night, Arthur had gone down on her. She always enjoyed it when Paddy did that, but Arthur had paid more attention to her back hole. Hilary couldn't wait to have something bigger up there. The fact it was somewhat dirty made her want it more. Back in the past, behavior like this had turned her into a submissive slut. Had Arthur brought this side of her out again? Almost overnight, the vanilla Hilary Dews had transformed into a multi-flavored slut. Sucking and swallowing everything on offer had ensured she had not gone home with calm dripping out of her. So Paddy's joke accusation had only been scary for a moment. Now she couldn't get her mind off Arthur's final orders. Full annual sex was on the menu next time, and he wanted her to change her vocabulary. Hilary had to say count, sheep, duck and asshole. She shivered at the thought of talking dirty. Paddy didn't approve of it. Chapter 6. Paddy had just been paid for drawing a large garage, which was to be attached to the front corner of a client's house. It would lengthen the facade and extend at the rear to accommodate a laundry room and downstairs toilet. At the start of the project, he queried why the client specified an air gap on the outside wall, a breeze block inner and a brick outer, to be built with metal ties binding them. This wasn't necessary on a garage. Today he'd found out why. Planning permission had been approved, but now the client wanted to resubmit with an additional story over the garage, hence the stronger supporting wall. Paddy was asked to design an ensuite shower room at the back, a dressing room at the front, and a computer nook in between. He appreciated the extra fee. This additional plan would take longer to design, and it would cost more, but Paddy didn't want to proceed until he'd visited the site for more measurements. He had the property blueprints but didn't trust them. They often showed the architect's original intention, rather than as built. He had designed the garage at the standard width, as per the customer's instructions. But the bathroom over it would be improved if he could squeeze an extra couple of inches. He was having an internal debate. Should he begin the drawing tonight, or wait till he'd been to the house? He decided to go and get his shilla. As his name suggested, he had Irish roots, though had never lived in the old country. But he had an uncle in Shilla, where his grandparents had been born. For a wedding present, an uncle had sent Paddy a souvenir shilla, a piece of hardened blackthorn, effectively a cudgel club. It had the traditional lumps along the shaft and a thicker branched piece at the business end. He always grinned when holding it. In A Few Good Men, Tom Cruise had said he always thought better with his baseball bat. Paddy lifted it from its place of honor above the fireplace and hefted it from hand to hand. He spoke out loud in an Irish accent. "I always thinks better with me shilla." Hilary walked in. "What are you doing with that?" she asked. "I'm thinking." He paced up and down the room, smacking the heavy end in his palm. "What are you thinking about?" "The difference an extra couple of inches can make." She gulped. A taxi horn sounded outside. "I'm off to meet the girls then." She left. But Paddy had seen the flicker of concern on her face, even fear. He stared at the shillelagh and threw it onto the sofa. Surely she didn't imagine he would hit her with it. Yet that was what her face had told him. And why hadn't she kissed him goodbye, like she usually did? He parted the curtain and watched her approach the taxi. Her red blouse was nearly transparent. He'd been able to see her black bra through it. And the black pleated skirt was the shortest one she possessed. Hilary did not look tardy, but she was halfway there. She stopped at a car, unlocked the passenger door and removed a plastic bag from the glove box. What was this all about? Paddy wasn't usually suspicious, but was far from stupid. He would investigate a car later. He picked up the shillelagh and began pacing again. Hilary calmed down in the taxi. Paddy was just being weird. He must have been thinking of something else. He would never hit her. His odd comment about extra inches had nothing to do with her. Soon she was feeling fine and entered the hotel, going directly to the toilets. In a stall she opened her handbag, the biggest one she had. She removed the plastic bag and took off her bra, panties, and tights. She stuffed them into it and pushed it into a corner of her handbag. Then slipped off her shoes, pulled on the thong and stockings, and put her shoes back on. At the mirror she applied some red lipstick. It matched her stockings. Now she really looked like a whore. Perfect, that was the effect she was after. She had a final check that she had the baby oil, and stepped into the bar. Arthur stood and greeted her. His hug and deep kiss jump-started that familiar tingle. She said hello to a couple of the girls, and she and Arthur had a drink just to show their faces. Irene and Doris were already sitting on their guys' laps and gave her a quick wave. The guys might have tried to wave, but their hands were out of sight. Tracy was dancing with two guys again. Hilary shuddered. The thought of being sandwiched between two men penetrating her brought back memories. She'd done that once in her youth and loved it. She couldn't get to Arthur's room quick enough and was kissing him before the lift doors closed. Once they arrived, Arthur ordered her to take his clothes off, treating her like a servant. Back home was a good husband working to provide her with holidays and expensive clothes. And here was his cheating wife, folding another man's clothes. And she was about to give this stranger her mouth, count, and asshole. When she got all his clothes off, Arthur told her to bend over the chair. After a few rounds, Arthur told her to go down to the bar to find John, the HR director of Empire Holdings, and take him back up to the room. Back in Arthur's room, he and John demonstrated spit roasting. Hilary had accommodated two men at once before and wasn't disappointed. She hadn't considered them swapping places, but it was great when they did. Within 10 minutes they had both given her a no. They tried all possible combinations and positions, and she came twice more. Her taxi pulled up just after 11. Is there some reason why you're wearing a man's jacket? Yes, she said, opening it. Some guy was dancing with doors. And when he brought her back to her table, he picked up his drink and stuck his other hand up her dress. She smacked his face so hard he staggered and spilled red wine all over me. She'd been practicing that in the taxi. He was so embarrassed he gave me his jacket to cover up the mess. Luckily none went on my skirt. Hilary opened the jacket and showed him the drenched blouse. The blatant nip-nip shapes had now gone, but her black bra was more visible than before. I see. It gets worse, continued Hilary. I wasn't about to let him get in the taxi with me, so I came home on my own, but had to give him our address. He'll come round for his jacket tomorrow morning. In bed, Paddy stayed calm and waited till she was asleep, then slipped outside with her car keys. The bag in the glove box confirmed his worst fears. A soiled thong and matching red stockings, when covered in dried calm, a great deal of it. So, this fortnightly jaunt involved more than just girls. The baby oil alone spoke volumes. He replaced everything and went inside to check the man's jacket. Nothing. On impulse he checked the laundry hamper. Her bra was dry like the black knickers she'd apparently gone out in. So how did a glass of wine soak her blouse, but leave her bra untouched? Chapter 7. Next day he was cutting the front hedge. Autumn was upon them, and this would be the last trim of the year. When Mr. Barnes came out, Paddy had just started on his side. Thanks for doing this. Has Hilary gone shopping? She has. I've got good news and bad news, sonner. And thought I'd better tell you while she's not around. Paddy put the clippers down. Start with the bad. I've got an infestation, that is the house has. It's called dry rot, and our two have a lot of timber. If I've got it, you've almost certainly got it too. What are the signs? I'd better check. I haven't noticed anything my side. Look for deep cracks and exposed beams. Also for wood that crumbles, and orange-looking spores. It's a fungus. I took photos of mine and confirmed what it is online. Thanks, I'll do that. But now tell me the good news. I doubt if it will be very good though. You may be surprised. Come on in and have a beer. I have a nephew who works for the local council, and he overheard something he shouldn't have. And he certainly shouldn't have told me. So what I say next is strictly between us, okay? My lips are sealed. Some colleagues of his, higher up the food chain, were discussing the agenda for an upcoming meeting before April 6, the new tax year. They need all their ducks in a row for next year's financial planning. There's a developer looking for permission to build a dozen expensive houses, creating a new development. He was turned down last year, but has come back this year with an improved proposal. 10 houses, a bar restaurant and a mini supermarket. It will be accepted. So what's the good news? They're after a CAD designer. No, they're going to serve you and me with compulsory purchase orders. The land the developer wants is right here. What? We have to sell up and move after all these years. How is that good? I'll tell you. The local government is aware our houses are unique. Even under normal compulsory purchases, they pay 10% above market value as compensation for the disruption. And they pay our estate agent, solicitor, and removal fees. For our two they'll probably go to 20% higher. So you and Hilary will get a very handsome price to set up elsewhere. Think about it, do you want to stay here while the infestation is treated? It will be an expensive upheaval and you'll never get your money back for the work done. And you'll get a pittance for the compulsory purchase of an infested house. So you must not mention the dry rot when an offer is made. And don't even think about calling in an expert, then the problem will be in the public domain. Paddy thought about it and said, "There's something I'd like you to do for me." When Hilary got back from the shops, Paddy's car was gone. Mr. Barnes was trimming his hedge. "Oh, it looks like you've done our site as well, Mr. Barnes. Thank you. Do you know where Paddy went?" "He had to go and visit a client, something to do with precise measurements. He'll probably be back soon. Could we have a quick word first?" "Sure." Hilary left the shopping and joined him. "I know Paddy has lived here all his life, so what I have to say will be very upsetting. It'll be better coming from you. I'm not going to tell him anything." "What on earth has happened?" "I had a timber expert round yesterday. When Paddy returned he went on the offensive to keep Hilary off balance, and to see if she would conceal the bad news from him. He would avoid a full-on attack, he only wanted her on edge." "So what did you get up to on your girls' night out?" he asked. "I'm not sure if I'm happy about it anymore." "Happy about what? I didn't get up to anything. I noticed your black bra and knickers had no wine stains on them. Did you take them off in that hotel? Have you been checking in my underwear drawer?" He didn't answer, just stared at her. When the silence became uncomfortable he spoke again. Did you take them off in that hotel? Hilary had prepared for this and had expected the inquisition earlier. First, I certainly did not take my knickers off at all. That's outrageous. I did take my bra off just before the accident. It was irritating me. I think perhaps it didn't get rinsed properly, and the washing powder was making me scratch. So when the guy assaulted Doris and she spilled her wine over me, yes, I'd been braless for 5 minutes. And once I was soaked, everyone could see my breasts were stuck to me. That's why he lent me his jacket. There was none on my skirt, so no reason to get any on my panties. Then if your bra was clean, why did you put it in the laundry hamper? I told you, because it wasn't rinsed properly. Okay, I've got the picture, sorry. Paddy thought Hilary's answer was clever to cross-reference the reason for removing her bra, but it was not clever enough. Her original story had the guy spilling the wine, but now it was Doris. Still, the plan had been to shake her up a bit. If she did not mention the dry rot, then she was probably planning on leaving him. He was unsure what he would do if she did mention it. But she didn't. And the next girls' night out, she cried off, said she wasn't feeling well. He checked her phone and went through all the girls' names, starting with Amy, and they all had a similar message from her. Sorry she couldn't come. He was sure she was cheating, but it seemed to have died a death. Perhaps he'd scared her off. If it was a one-time fling, he might let it go. But it still niggled that she was not telling him about the infestation. He checked and Barnes had definitely told her. He never did discover Amy was Arthur Mycroft, but in the end it made no difference to the outcome. Chapter 8. A week later, Hilary told him the news from Winchester Logistics. They were holding a Halloween party. Everyone and their partners were invited. And guess what? It will be at the Tollgate Hotel. It coincides with our girls' night out next Friday. Sounds like fun. I could go as the masked axeman again, if we still have the costume. I think it's in the attic. And this time Winchester has really gone to town. They've reserved the entire hotel. Anyone who books early can have a free room for the night. Paddy didn't need a clear plan. He answered immediately. Great, book us a room. It was the Wednesday before the party. Paddy had retrieved his axeman outfit from the attic. While up there he noticed a distressing odor of mold. When Hilary got home from work, he gave her the sad news. I just got a call from my uncle in Ireland, he said. It's his birthday on Friday and he wants me to go over there for the weekend. But you've never done that before. True, but he's just been diagnosed with cancer. This will probably be his last one. It is bad timing, but I ought to go. You'll miss the party. That's what I mean by bad timing. But you'll know more people there than me, and you look fantastic in that goth witch costume. You must still go and make use of our room. It'll save you a taxi fare and you'll get a free breakfast. Well, if you're sure. Thursday afternoon Paddy left. His departure was all hugs and kisses, and tell your uncle I'm praying for him. He left his axeman costume out where she would see it, but took his new outfit with him. It amused him to stay that night at the Tollgate. As soon as he'd gone, Hilary called Arthur with the good news. This is perfect, he said. Fate conspires to bring our plan together. John and I will attend in fancy dress. The Tollgate has refused external bookings, but they haven't advertised a party. So they'll let in anyone wearing a costume. To recap, when you become my pa, there will be occasions when you must entertain my most important customers. Yes, I know what I'll have to do. It sounds like fun. Well, you completed your 2 job interviews and you to fit the bill. If you can satisfy John and me in your final test at the party, you can start on Monday. You hardly need to give any notice leaving a mere warehouse job. Just inform your boss tomorrow night. The Halloween event can double as your farewell. I think I can guess what my final test will entail. I'm sure you can, but I'll confirm. You will take John and I to your room where we will annual spitters to you, repeat every combination of double penetration, and both come in your mouth several times. Yes. You will entertain us all night, though we'll leave before breakfast. And when you start work on Monday, you will spend the morning with Empire's CEO. He also has a fondness for horses, and will give yours a good hard spanking, call it orientation. Paddy strode into the hotel ballroom 15 minutes early. He was dressed as the Grim Reaper. A black hooded cape, under which was a black face mask hiding all but his eyes. The scythe was a bit wobbly, but no one would expect a real one. At the open bar he got a drink. He didn't often have cider, but dry blackthorn seemed particularly appropriate tonight, and made him chuckle. More costumed people arrived and he mingled without speaking. Obviously some of them were eyeing him, wondering who he was. But nobody asked. Humans were naturally cautious approaching death. Luck was with him. He soon recognized a pirate, who was joined by someone wearing a scream mask. The pirate had stopped at 1 Bristol Road, to collect his jacket. It's chaos out there, said Scream. Everyone arrived at once and they're not even trying to check people in properly. I'll get the extra key later. What room are we in? 216, 2 double beds, but we'll only need one for the first couple of hours. Is our new pa here yet? No, she's on her way. Look out for Goth Witch. Paddy was tempted to try and get access to that room as soon as possible, but he forced himself to wait until Hilary arrived. When she did, she obviously knew how the guys would be dressed and made a beeline for them. They exchanged hugs and ignored the Grim Reaper standing nearby. He could hear their plans. Hilary would inform her boss she was leaving. Then she would circulate and say goodbye to her friends. The whole process should take no longer than 3 glasses of wine, about an hour. As the initial rush slowed down, Paddy finished his cider and went to reception. I left something in my room, he said. Can I have the key to 216, please? I'll bring it straight back. I daren't refuse you, sir, said the woman on the desk, laughing. I don't want to die tonight. Paddy leaned forward and took the key. I am misunderstood by you humans. I don't kill people, I merely separate the soul from the body when their time comes. Where it goes is no concern of mine. However, I do keep a lookout for sin, so you'd better behave yourself. He unlocked the room, left the door open and returned the key. Back in 216 again, he decided to hide in the bathroom. He wouldn't have to stay out of sight for long. At last the trio arrived, stumbling into the room. They stood quietly for a moment, and then started discarding items. Paddy watched and had to smile at their priorities. Arthur the pirate removed his hat, jacket, mustache and beard. John removed his scream mask and cape. And the witch removed her pointed hat, dress, and panties. This left her naked except for black fishnet stockings. John went to the bathroom, tugging at his zip, and got a sudden punch in the face. He staggered back, holding his bleeding nose. Death swept in and spoke with a deep voice, almost a whisper. You should have kept your mask on, he said. John started to rise and got another punch. He fell back and pissed himself. The Grim Reaper swirled round to face the other two, who stood frozen to the spot. Arthur recovered first and squared up to Paddy, who brandished his scythe. You won't hurt me with that pathetic piece of plastic, he said. And you won't take me by surprise. We shall see, mortal. Paddy raised the scythe with a dramatic flourish, and it began its arc towards Arthur, who lifted his right arm to ward off the blow. There was a movement from the folds of Death's cloak. The shillelagh crunched against Arthur's left ear, and he sat down abruptly. Paddy, said Hilary. Arthur's eyes were glazed and he remained sitting. He held one hand against his ear, and blood trickled between his fingers. Paddy raised the shillelagh again. Stop, yelled Hilary. She stepped in front of him and gripped the thick end of the club. He paused and she removed her hand and held it in front of his face. There was a circle of blood on her palm. Enough, please, Paddy. Look what you've done. If you hit him again, you'll kill him. Is this worth a lifetime in prison? Am I worth it? Her last words sank in. No, the cheating witch was not worth time behind bars. He lowered the cudgel and came to his senses. He must think straight, soon there would be a divorce settlement to negotiate. If we can keep him out of hospital, I'll persuade the guys not to call the police. She turned and looked at John, who nodded, all the while staring at the shillelagh. Arthur just groaned but did begin to focus. Go home now, Paddy. Think about what you want from this situation, and I'll come and talk to you on Sunday. And you'll collect your stuff while you're there. Yes, if that's what you want. Chapter 9. Sunday arrived and Hilary drove up at 10. Paddy didn't need any time to think about what he wanted. It was simple, divorce and the house. The conversation got off to a bad start with her unwanted explanations. She got carried away with reverting to her former slut self. Then it came down to the divorce. But my adultery is irrelevant. I'm still entitled to half of everything, and that includes the house. Paddy knew she was just playing a part. For an easier split, she would agree to anything. She didn't really want any part of an infested house. That may be true, he countered. But I'm entitled to a wife who doesn't wander off and have gangbangs. It would be a bad start to your pa career if an angry husband turned up shouting, telling anyone who'd listen that you ducked your way into the job. Okay, what do you want to keep quiet? Take your stuff, half the furniture and half the bank balance. I keep what's left in the house. Hilary looked suitably disappointed. Okay, but I also keep my car, which you paid for. 2 hours later, she was driving away, the boot and back seat full of her belongings. She was laughing. Keep it, Paddy, she said out loud. Another couple of years and it'll be falling down on you. Paddy thought the place looked empty without Hilary's clutter, which was fine by him. The following week he called in his own expert. Not to confirm the dry rot, but to check his old furniture. The only casualty was the piano, which he couldn't play anyway. It got burned and the rest was pronounced clear of any infestation. Paddy put the more important pieces into storage. Hilary loved her new job, though she did miss the space at 1 Bristol Road. The divorce went through quickly and quietly, and she had no need to see Paddy once it was finalized. Their paths didn't cross for months. Her new apartment was on the small side but adequate. The sex was awesome, and there was hardly a day went by without a no. She rapidly got used to her new lifestyle. There was submissive sex, usually with businessmen, and great bonuses when she helped Empire land a deal. "So you have an itchy bottom?" asked the doctor. "Yes, and this last few days it started to hurt a bit when I have a poo." "Do you and your partner have annual sex?" "Yes, but we haven't for over a week." "Do you use condoms?" No, not all the time." "Take your panties off and lie on the examination table." "All done, you can put them on again." Sitting opposite the doctor, she asked what it was. He peeled off the latex gloves and dropped them in a bin. "I have taken a sample from the sore areas and will have the results very soon. But I regret to inform you, Mrs. Boyle, that you have herpes. The test results will tell me which strain of the virus. The itching and painful defecation are caused by the virus's blisters. You have a rash around your genitals, so can expect painful urination to follow. And I believe I can see sores beginning to form around your lips. The symptoms are not unusual, but this is the first time I have seen them in all 3 areas simultaneously. It is a legal requirement that you inform your husband. We're divorced. This happened after we split. Then you must inform your current partner or partners, and they must also get tested. If any are experiencing sores or rashes, they in turn must inform any other contacts." "Oh God, can it be treated?" "The good news is it can. I'm sure my diagnosis is correct, so I'll prescribe some medication straight away. It will relieve your symptoms and lessen the severity of the symptoms in future outbreaks." "You mean this could happen again?" "Sadly, yes. We can only treat it, not cure it. The herpes virus stays inside the human body forever." Arthur and John were devastated at the news and were both confirmed with herpes, and a hunt down the chain of suspects began. Nobody blamed Hilary, of course, but her job did become rather run-of-the-mill. She only attended one more girls' night out, then stopped going. She missed working at Winchester Logistics and missed her friends. Her life became lonely. After a full confession to her doctor, it was confirmed the virus had not started with Arthur or John, so it was impossible Paddy could have contracted it. She got the urge to go and see him and drove to the end of Bristol Road. But the lowest number was now 3. Beyond that was a large building site, full of diggers and other machinery. She got out of the car and walked towards the only man wearing a suit with his yellow hard hat. "You cannot come onto the site, madam," he said, blocking her way. "What's going on?" "It's a new development, 10 bespoke houses. We're setting up a sales office tomorrow if you're interested." "What happened to numbers 1 and 2? "Demolished. The numbers will be reinstated, but number 1 is already sold to some rich Irishman." We have reached the end of today's story, my dear viewers. Sometimes you really just need to let nature take the revenge for you. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.